Hey guys, welcome back. Now this video is part of the 50 Rust project series. Even though I'll make this video now, I'll arrange it in the playlist in such a way that the videos will be in the increasing order of difficulty. So you'll be able to gather more skills as you build more projects. In today's video, we're building a authentication server. So we'll be using JWT. But for the APIs, we'll be using a framework called Warp. It's a web framework in Rust. The benefit of Warp is that it's a small, lightweight framework. So it helps you to get quickly started by building APIs. And there are a lot of use cases. So in the sense, there might be many projects where you don't want to build a full-blown server, like you don't want to use Actix or you don't want to use Rocket because they're much bigger frameworks and with a lot of features. They're also heavier, slower to build with, a lot of concepts, right? So in those cases, you might want to have something like Warp, which is very easy to learn, very lightweight, very fast to get started with, fast to build with, and fast to run. At runtime, it's also very fast. So Warp has a lot of benefits and a lot of use cases. By the way, we've already built a project with Actix, right? It wasn't a full-blown project, like a very small, simple project. I just showed you how to use Actix, right? So you might want to check that out. I think that will be much before in this playlist series, because in this video, even though this framework is much lighter, we're actually building a much bigger project than the one that we built with Actix, right? But the projects are comparable in the sense that even with this project that we're building, we're not going to be using a database. We're actually just using a hash map, and that hash map, we would already pre-create the users. And then when we log in, we'll just be comparing with the users that are already created in the hash map. Okay, so we don't have a database, just a hash map with pre-created users. We log in and we'll do all of the things with JWT, like creating tokens, authentication. There's also one more thing here, which is role-based authorization. So we'll have different routes for users and admin, and we'll be checking if the user is a regular user or he's an admin, and depending on that, we'll be giving him access to the APIs. Okay, so that also is there. So that means it's almost like a proper project for JWT, right? You'll have regular authentication and role-based authorization. That means you could use this code in multiple places. All right. So what we'll do now is I have two terminals. Let me just show you my screen. I have two terminals open here for you guys. One is the place where I've already built the project. Now, I just want to tell you that this project is already built. It's on my GitHub, right? So I'll put the link of the project on GitHub on this YouTube video. But in case I forget to do that, you just need to know that I'm Akhil Sharma 90 on GitHub, and almost all of the projects that I've built are already there. And this one is definitely there because I just built it, just uploaded it, right? So here, the project, the name of the project would be something like Rust Warp JWT example, something like that. Anyway, so now what we'll do is I'll just run it. I'll just say cargo run. Okay. And it's running on port 8000, and I will now interact with this project. So the first thing that I'll do is I will hit the login route. Okay, on a different terminal. As you can see, I'm hitting the login route. All right, and I'm inputting the email, which is user@userland.com, and password 1234, because this user is already created in my hash map, which is there in the session memory of the project, which is running at the moment, right? There's no database, like I said, just a hash map. When I log in, I get the token. So this is what the JWT is doing here. It's creating a token for us. Now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll save this token somewhere. Okay, so I recommend, if in case you also have this project and you're running it along, you might want to save this as well. But anyways, this is just a demo. So in case you haven't forked my project from GitHub and are not running it on your system, it's completely all right. I'm just giving you a demo, right? I have copied it somewhere, the token. And now I'm going to try to hit the user route. Okay, so I'll just press enter a couple of times, hit the user route, and it says, as you see, hello user 1. That means the JWT is able to determine that this user already exists, and it's able to check the token. It's also unable to get the information like the user type from the token. So this means it allows me to hit, and it also sends back a response saying hello user1. Okay. Now what I'll do is I will try to hit the admin route with this token. Okay, so let me bring out my command for the same. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, so this is my command, my curl command, where I'm trying to hit the admin route with this same token, the token that's meant for the user. And ideally it should not let me in, because this is the admin route meant for the admin user, not for the regular user. So it'll say token not valid, status 401, unauthorized. All right, so we have elaborate error handling in our project, and that's also what we'll be building today. Okay, and the next thing you want to do is hit the login route, but with the admin credentials. So what I'll do is I will hit the admin route. Just a second. Yeah, hit the admin route. So you can see here, sorry, the login route, but with the admin credentials. So I have the admin created here with different password. Like I said, these users are already created. Whenever we start the project, these users get created in the beginning. And I'll show you how to do that. We'll initialize these users, right? So we're just comparing that this user who already exists in the session memory right now, is it the same as this user that I'm sending in as request? And yes, it is. So it's giving me a token now. So what I'll do is I'll just copy and paste this token in a safe place. And what I'll do is I'll try to hit now the admin route. So we saw earlier that we were not able to hit the admin route, right? Because it is saying it's unauthorized. But now if we try to hit the admin route, it says hello admin2, which is with the new token, you're able to hit the admin route. All right, that's awesome. So what I'll do now is I will again try to hit the user route, and let's see what happens. So I'll try to hit the user route with this admin token, and let's see what happens. Okay, so I will come here, I'll try to hit the user route, but with the admin token. So it remembers, it says hello user2. So that means the admin is able to hit not only the admin route, but also the user route, but the user is only able to hit the user route, not the admin route. Right? Okay, I hope that makes sense. It's quite elaborate, like the rules that we've put in, quite elaborate. And it's like a full-blown working project. You can just pick up the code, use it in your project, right? If you have, let's say, a submission in your college, or you're building something at your office, in your job, you're building something very quick, this is the best way to build it, right? With JWT, it has warp, it has these APIs, it has error handling, it has rules and authorization, authentication, everything is there. Anyhow, so now let's get started. So I'll just clear this all up. I will stop the server from running, and I will create a new project. So I'll say cargo new, and I'll give it a name like Rust warp. I'll say JWT and YT for YouTube. So I'll cd into it Rust warp JWT and YT, right? And you can see here cargo.tumble src. Now I've not created videos in quite some time now, and the reason for that is that as many of you might know that my startup Armor.ai was selected by Techstars, which is a great accelerator, and then recently it got selected by Outlier Ventures, which is again an accelerator, tech accelerator. And in the middle we also got grants from companies or from blockchains like Aptos. So it's been extremely busy, very, very hectic. And basically, essentially what Armor AI is, it's a platform where you can build security tools. So it could be for Web 2, for Web 3, doesn't matter. The platform enables you to build security tools really easily. That's what we're building at Armor. Anyhow, just wanted to update you on and why I've not been making a lot of videos. But then now things are getting a bit lighter. I'll have a little bit more time, hopefully. And whenever I have time in between the day, I'll just create a quick video like this, right? So that I'm able to also keep in touch with the technologies. Anyway, so I have it here. I am going to open it up in my VS Code. Okay. Awesome. So there are two terminals, right? The other one, I can just get rid of that. Okay. So here in my src, I have a main.rs, which is awesome, but I need two more files. I need my all the logic for my authentication and all the logic for my headers. I need that as well. Okay. So now another thing is there's quite a lot happening in this project, so I'm just wondering where to get started with. I think I'll just remove, get rid of all of this, and I'll start by just creating a user struct. Okay, let's just do that. So let's just create a user struct. Okay. And by the way, I'm not sure if you can see my screens. They're up in the sky, like up in the air now. Earlier they used to be on the table. Now I've put them up in the air, so I will be just looking here and there because I have like 4 screens here, 4 different screens. So yeah, just want to tell you that. So like there's nobody else in the room. I'm not looking at a person when I'm looking here and here. I'm just looking at the screens. All right. So like this, having the same code window on 2 different places, like instead of having like a split view, it's just better to have it on different screens. That's what I was doing, right? So in the main.rs, you have your user struct, and I'm going to have a UID, which is string, and email, which is again string. Okay, and then password, which is again string. Now I hope you all know what structs are. You shouldn't be doing this video if you don't know the basics of Rust, by the way, because I get a lot of comments on YouTube saying that, hey, I didn't understand anything that you're teaching. It's obviously because I'm expecting that you know Rust before, if you want to build a full-on project with frameworks in Rust, right? And a lot of people don't understand that, and they just come and write on my videos, I'm not understanding anything you're saying, and you're just talking, you're not explaining. It's because I'm not supposed to be explaining what is a struct in a video that's meant for building projects with a web framework, right? So I need to give me that much of like you have to have that kind of understanding at least. So anyways, even if you don't know what struct is, it's basically enables you to create your own custom data types. So user is a data type here, which has a UID, which is string, email, which is string, password, and role. Okay, because role could be user or admin, as we just saw in the demo. And then I have another struct for the login request. Okay, so I'll have 2 things, which is the request and the response for login. And sorry, I'm not able to look at my keyboard because of this mic. Let me just put it here. All right, so for the login request, I have the email. So I'll send the email, and I will send the password, email and password. So it's a very straightforward, simple, straightforward login. Okay, and then I have something called as the login response. Like I said, when you make a request for logging in, that is what this will look like. The login request will always look like this. It will have always an email and a password. And the login response will always look like this. It will have a token, right? So this is my way of defining the right request and response in structs, right? So that it doesn't deviate, the project doesn't deviate from this. All right, so now because I'm sending the request as JSON, as you just saw in the terminal, I was using the terminal and I was sending JSON requests, right? And I was receiving a JSON response. So I need to deserialize and serialize, right? Because Rust is not able to understand JSON on its own. And a lot of people coming from JavaScript background, they get very confused in this step. They think, oh, but why is that, why is Rust not able to understand that when JavaScript understands that by default? Because JSON is JavaScript object notation, and JavaScript already understands that by default, but Rust does not, Golang does not, and that's why we need to do this. Okay, so you're going to say deserialize here. In case you're you don't know how serialization deserialization works, there's a very detailed video that I've created on in this series itself, this playlist itself. It's in towards the beginning, where I explain the Surday package, which is the Surday crate, which enables us to do deserialization and serialization. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first get that, because by default Rust doesn't have it, so we need to make use of the Surday package, deserialize and serialize. Okay, and you have that now. Now for the user, we'll have to work with the user object with, multiple times, right? So when we receive the user object in the so we'll create the user object and it will be stored in the session memory as a hash map. We'll have to also compare with the user that we get, the user data that we get in the request, and then we'll have to search for the users. So we'll do a lot of operations with users where we need to have multiple copies of the users. So I'll just clone this. So I'll just say, I'll give it the ability to that we're able to clone it very easily. So I'll just say derive clone. And now what we want to do is we want to start working on the main function. So I'll say sync fn main. Okay. And to be able to enable the async function, we will be using Tokyo. So in case you haven't worked with Tokyo, there are multiple videos on this same playlist, this Rust playlist. There are multiple videos about Tokyo. Make sure you check them out. We've already built projects using Tokyo, and the async functionality it brings us with it. So here we'll say let users equal to arc new init underscore users. Now init users is going to be a function that will help us create default users. So I'll repeat again. Init users is the function that will help us create default users as the program starts. So before we make any requests, two users will already exist in our hash map. Two users, one being the user, regular user, one being an admin user. That's how we'll compare the user coming in the request with these users in the hash map. We'll search for these, we'll compare them, and that's how we'll create the token, right? That's the whole logic that's going to be there. So arc that we've just written here, we'll have to add in the appropriate. So it comes in from standard sync arc. Arc is something that you use usually with things that you'll be using, things that you'll be cloning a lot. So init users is something, like I mentioned, we'll be cloning quite a bit. Oh, by the way, I'm not sure if I covered it with C. At the end, I made C capital here in clone. You just need to see that this color changes, right? So maybe because I left for a quick break in between just to get some water. So maybe I didn't show you this, which is C is supposed to be capital. Make sure you do that in your code as well. Okay. Then we got this arc now, arc new init users. All right. So we have this now, and now we'll quickly create our routes using warp. Now we also need warp here. So I'll just quickly write use warp, and warp comes with reject, reply, filter. We'll need filter as well, rejection and reply. Okay. And we need warp now to be able to create these routes in the main function. So we'll first say let login underscore routes. This is for the login route is equal to warp path login. Okay. So this is how the login starts, and we'll say dot and warp post request. So for that means for login, that's the path, right, for login route, and it will be a post method, and we'll change some more things here. So we'll say with underscore users and users.clone. So as you know, we're going to be cloning users quite a bit. That's why we have this here. Dot and warp body JSON. Okay, because the request will be in JSON. Dot and underscore then and login underscore handler. So essentially what's happening is, if you hit the login route, you need to have the login handler. That's the main thing, right? And everything else is just helping us with that. So we have that it's going to be a post route, it's going to have users, so you'll clone the users and perform some operations on the users, because as you know, with login, you're going to be trying to find those users in the hash map. As we'll write more code, it'll make more sense, but just need to know that with login, you need to have the login handler. Login handler is the function we'll create in a while. Just need to know that, right? Then we'll just create the user route and the admin route. So user route is equal to, again, warp path and user, okay, dot and with auth, here you'll have role user. Okay, so what we're saying is, for the user route, it's obviously whenever we had the user route, like slash user, that's when we're supposed to come into this chain, and the role of that user should be user. So there will be two roles. One is the user role, the other is the admin role. Talking about the user role here, and then you have the user handler. Okay, talked about it. Just like we have the login handler, we have the user handler here. Similarly, we'll have the admin route and the admin handler. So admin route is equal to warp path admin, okay, dot and with auth, and you have the role which is admin, okay, dot and underscore then admin underscore handler. Essentially, login routes with slash login hits login handler. This is a post request. User route with slash user hits the user handler. Admin route slash admin hits the admin handler. And generally, let's just define the routes. So routes is going to be login route, okay, or user route, or admin route. It might also recover the error. If it's not any of these routes, we'll have the recover error, which is handle rejection. Handle rejection is something we'll work with mostly in our error.rs file, but I'll mention it here, error and handle rejection. So what is this error? So this error needs to be in the top. So we'll say use error, everything from the error mod, okay, and I'll just get also everything from the auth. So error and auth are these two files that we'll be using as modules. So I'll also get auth, and here we'll have with auth and comma role, right? So we've done here, we've used with users, we've not used, yeah, so we've used with auth also. In the with auth, you also pass role, which is the user, and that's the logic that we'll handle in our auth.rs file. So that's why I've also gotten it from auth, which is get with the auth and also the role, okay, because we're passing the role as well, role user or role admin. And here we can say mod auth and mod error. All right, now I need a couple of more things. I need to be able to work with hash maps, like, because we'll be creating multiple users as the program begins, and those are the users that we'll be comparing with when we have to do logins. So we'll need hash map, and then I'll need another thing called infallible. We've used it before. It's when we don't want to return any error. That's when we use infallible. I'll use that also later on. So I'll just include them for now. So I'll say use standard. Just for a second, I'm not able to look at my keyboard because of this mic. It's trying this new setup. So you have use standard, and you have collections hash map. Okay. And then you have use standard convert and infallible. Okay. So we've reached here. Finally, when you have defined all the routes, you can simply start off the server. So we'll say serve all the routes and run the server on 127,0,0,1,8000, and we'll say dot await. Okay, that's that. Now there's this function called with users. So here we can go ahead and create that function. So we'll say function with underscore users, takes in users, which is a collection of users with a capital U. So what does user with a capital U mean? User with a capital U is actually the struct. So multiple of those structs, because we'll have multiple users, like I said, will be collection of these structs. Basically, the collection of these structs is assigned to users. Okay, they will perform some functions on the users. So implement filter. Essentially what you need to do is, always we have that hash map of multiple users. We have not created those yet, but we'll create that in the init user function. This function, we'll create it very, very soon. But when you have that hash map of multiple users, you need to be able to extract them, right? That's how you will, go user by user, extract user by user, and then compare the details of that user with the ones that you'll receive in the request. Okay, that's why we are extracting it. So we'll say is equal to users, comma error is equal to infallible plus clone so warp any dot map move users dot clone. Enables me to extract users. Okay, so there are three functions that I need to write here. One is the login handler, the user handler, and the admin handler. So I'll at least create outlines of those functions. So I'll say pub async function login handler. Okay, the one that will be called when somebody hits the login path, login handler. So I'll have users, which is a collection of the users. Have body, which is the login request. Okay, so I'll explain this again. Users is a collection of the user with a capital U, the struct. So multiple of users which are following this data type are the users that we'll have in users. Okay, which is again here, which we had cloned. And in login handler, you also have the body, which is the login request. So login request is something that you created here, which will have an email and password. So you'll have that also in the body, which is the request body. Okay, and we'll have to perform some operations with that. So like I told you, with the users, we're going to get the users one by one and compare it with what you got in the body, the details. That's what we'll be doing here essentially. And there will be something called as the web. I'll just push it down. Something called as the web result. So I'll say web result, implement reply, and match users being multiple users, right, from that we had assigned it to this variable users. And you're going to, how are you going to match? You're going to match them by iterating over the users, and you'll find, so like I explained before, that we'll have multiple users, and we'll go over each of those users that the function will help us to do. By iterating user by user, we'll go over them, and then we'll compare them with the details that we get in the request. That's how we'll come to know if this user matches this user, which is there in the hash map, and that's how you will complete the login request. Okay. So here will be find underscore UID comma user dot email equal to body dot email, user dot password equal to body dot password. Okay. So for this web result, right, I will go up and I will create result and web results. So I'll say type, it's a type that we have defined, type web result, standard result. Now we'll have to define this result also, t comma rejection. Now to define this result also, I'll say type result t to standard result t comma error. All right, and then you have type, which is users. In our case it's arc, and it's a hash map of string comma each user, right? So this users that we were talking about all this while, users, like I said, it's going to be a collection of multiple user, which is the struct, and here we've just officially defined it. It's a hash map. It's an arc, enables us to create with the help of cloning. You have a hash map, which is string comma user. Okay. All right. So here, now that we'll find that particular user, which matches the email, the body email and the user password and body password, which matches that, we need to perform some operation on it. Okay, so that means when we found it, we'll perform some operation on it. But before we do that, I'll just create the init users function so that things are much more clear. So I'll say sum here, even if I found it. All right. So first, I'll just create the init user function so that things make a lot more sense. So because once I create this function, everything will become so much clearer to you that all your doubts will go away. So I'll create init underscore users function, and this has a hash map string comma user, and we start with mute map hash map new map dot insert. This is the first user, so we'll say, if you remember here, we just created, so the reason I'm following this particular order is because I'm taking you through everything. So users, there's a string, right? The string is actually, we'll use it for like 1, 2, the ID of the user, and then we'll have the user. Okay, and that's what we also had here, the ID of the user and the user, because we'll have multiple when we go through multiple users, when we iterate through them. So anyhow, so the first thing is from, I'll create user number 1, comma, and I'll say here user, which is, if you see capital U, you know that I'm talking about the user, the struct. So here I have something called as the UID, which is string from 1. Okay, why? Because it starts with UID, right? And then I have something called as email, which is again string from user @userland.com, comma, password, a string from 1, 2, 3, 4. Now these are all hard-coded values, so I'm creating a hash map with these exact users. And if you remember the demo that I showed you, we were actually using this user details. We were using this email, exact password to be able to authenticate that user. That's what we're basically comparing. Role, string, and this particular user has a role of users. That's why when we logged in this user and we got the token, we were not able to use that token to log in to the admin route, if you remember, comma. So, and now we'll say map dot insert for the next user. So we want to create the next user now, and we'll say string from 2 second user, okay, comma, user, and we'll say UID string from 2, comma, email, again a string from admin@.com, password is string from 4321, and the role is string from admin, right? So this user's role is admin, this user's role is user. As we know, admin is able to log in to both user and admin, but the user is not able to log into admin, just user. We'll put comma here, and then finally we'll just say map. All right, now we can come back here. So now that I've created the init users functions, now everything is very clear to you, right? That we have these 2 users, and we're basically doing everything else that we've done here is to compare the data that we receive in the request with the users, right? So when we found, so we are basically in the login handler, we are trying to get, we're trying to find the user which actually matches this email and password, because that's what we sent in the request. Once we've done that, we want to perform some operations. So we are going to create a token for him. So we'll say that token is equal to auth create JWT, right? So in the auth module, we say auth because we have the auth module here, which is going to have a function called create JWT. We'll have a function in the auth.rs file called create JWT. Going to just send it the UID, comma, and the role from string user.role, where you would extract the user data, dot map underscore error, reject custom error, so we'll say Okay. Reply is JSON. So I've for the time being I've disabled Rust Analyzer, and we'll activate it. So everything will get formatted correctly. But I've just disabled it so that I'm able to type with peace. So all of this happens when that particular user was found. So we created a token. But let's say if no user was found like that, which matches the email ID from that user that we were going through one by one, and it didn't meet the body email or the body password. What do we do then? So we'll say none, and we'll just send an error with reject, and we'll say custom wrong credentials error. So when we say custom, that means basically we've defined these errors somewhere on our own. That's what we mean, and all that is there in the error file. We'll define all the errors now. Before I jump there, I'll just go through the entire code once again, just to be sure everything is fine, and then we'll just create the two handlers, the login and admin handler, which is very straightforward. But before that, let's just quickly go through the code just to make sure everything is perfectly fine, perfectly all right. Okay, we have the web result and the users and the derived clone. We have the user, the login request, the login response, and login route, the user route, multiple routes. Yeah, everything looks all right. Okay, for now. And now I will just create the user handler and the admin handler. So I'll say pub async function user underscore handler ID string. We already have the web result. Reply. Okay. Right, so you remember in the demo that when the user was logging in, it said user 1, user 2, admin 2, like that, hello user 1, right? So this is where it's all happening. So we're just saying hello user, and we're embedding the UID there. And similarly for the admin handler, we will have the exact same function. So I'll say admin handler takes in all of this, says hello admin, and with the admin's ID. That completes our main.rs file. So now we have the error file to complete, okay, and then we have our auth file to work on. All right, so now that we've completed the main.rs file, I will now work on the auth.rs file. Okay, so the first thing that I can define is the enum role, and I know that role can be of type user, which is the struct that I've created, or it could be admin, so two different values, right, user or admin. And then I'll implement some functions for role. So for example, this function from string gets the role from string, and you get back role being the enum, right? So from string, like in the request, you send the token. From the token, you'll come to know if the user is a user or an admin, and that will be a string, right? And then but that your string, you want that to be in the form of the role which is either user or admin. So you can compare, so you get back the role, right? And now I'm going to match role. If it's admin, I'm going to say role admin or role user. All right. So there needs to be one more closing bracket. This makes sense. So in a JWT token, to create a JWT token, you need claims also, right? So I'll create the claims struct here, but I'll come back to it once I create the create JWT function. Okay, so here we have the create JWT function, which helps us create the token. So here first you have the UID, which is a string, role, which is yeah, role, which basically, sorry, this from string is small s. Make sure you make that change as well. Okay, so for here, role is role, which is actually ampersand role, and you get back the result from here, which is string. So what all what all does a token comprise of? It's the expiration time or date, time date, and the claims and the header, right? So first let's have the expiration. So you need the UTC package here, obviously, UTC now, which is the time which is right now, and then you'll say dot checked add signed using chrono duration. This is valid for 60 seconds. It's the expiration time. So if you were to use this after 60 seconds, it won't function. Dot expect valid timestamp dot timestamp. Okay, so now the other thing is the claims, and here this will be equal to claims with the capital C, which should be this struct that we create here. The claims will have sub, which will be string, have the role, which will again be string, and the expiration, which will again be usize. Okay, and here you need three things, which is derive, debug, comma deserialize, comma serialize. We'll be deserializing and serializing it, but to have deserialize and serialize, we need serde. So we'll say use serde deserialize, comma serialize, right? And we also use chrono, so we'll say use chrono get everything from chrono, essentially. Okay. Okay, so for claims, we've defined what claims looks like. Here also for the role, we'll say hash derive and clone with capital C, comma partial q. Okay. Coming to the claims, we have to work with three things. Sub, which is actually the UID, so to underscore owned, comma, we have the role, which is role dot to_string, and we have the expiration, which is essentially expiration as usize, which is the type, right? String usize the types, comma, and finally, as I mentioned, the token will have expiration claims and will have header. So we'll have header is equal to header new using the HS512 algorithm, and we'll encode the header, the claims with the encoding key from _secret JWT secret dot map error, sorry, JWT token creation. Okay, so first let's let me actually use JSON Web Token. That basically gives us the ability to decode, encode, gives us the algorithm that we just used, right? So we use something called as encoding or the encode function, which requires headers and claims, which we have right now, headers and claims. The header will have the algorithm, different types of algorithms which can be selected by us. And then the encoding key, which is JWT secret, we have to create that encoding key right now. Algorithm, comma, decoding key, comma, encoding key, comma, header, comma, validation. All these things we need. And when I'll also use the FMT package, and I'll need warp, obviously. In warp I'll have filters, headers cloned, and have HTTP header map, comma, header value, comma, authorization, and we'll have reject, filter, and rejection. We'll use this now, but up until now what we've done is we've created enum for role. I'll just bring this out here. We've created the enum for role, we've created the implementation for role. So this shouldn't be here, this should be here actually. Okay, with the enum, with the data type. And this is the implementation of function for role, which as I said helps us to get role, which is admin. If the string is admin, we'll define role as admin, which is part of the enum, role enum. Otherwise it's user. Then we have claims, which has role and expiry, which are the two more important fields. The create JWT function takes an UID and role and sends a result, which is a string, which in our case will be the token actually. And first we create expiration with the help of Chrono. Chrono package helps us create the expiration time, which is 60 seconds for the token, and expecting a valid timestamp. Then you have claims, which is UID, role, and expiration, all three. And you have header creating, starting off header with the algorithm that was HS2512 in our case, which you get from the JSON Web Token library. And then you use the encode function. So what you do essentially, not sure if you used JSON Web Token before, but I've shown that on YouTube, I think with the Node.js video also and with the Golang video also. the way to create a JWT token, and you can also go to their website and try this same thing out. The way to create a JWT token is to use some information that you will hash, right? So you'll create a hash from some information. So you'll use this algorithm and some information like header and claims, and use the encode function, which will use this algorithm to hash that data that you send it, and you get a key from it. Now to hash it, you use a secret key, which is in our case JWT secret, and we can define it here. So on top, we can just go here before this. We can just say we'll define it as constant. So constant JWT secret is our type U8 secret. We'll also define the bearer. So what's this? This is basically the thing that you see in your authorization. So you say authorization, right? Whenever you send a token in the request, you say authorization, and then you also say bearer and then the token. Okay, so we'll see this value called authorization, we'll see this value called bearer, and JWT token, JWT secret is just the constant used for as the encoding key to encode our header and claims and get the hash based on this algorithm. And this error, we have not defined it yet. It will be in the error.rs file, and we'll work on that in a while. Okay, so there's another function called with auth. So if you go to your main.rs file, you'll see this function being used called with auth, with underscore auth, and we're expecting this function to be created here. Okay, so let's do that. So we'll say public function with underscore auth. Let's see what it takes in. So it takes in the role. So you're passing the role as user or role as admin. Again, this role or user, role or admin are coming from your enum, role of user, role of admin. Okay. Now that we're connecting the dots, things will make sense. Maybe you are confused here why we're writing it like this, but it all makes sense when we have because we're going in a particular order. We can't do everything all at once. So sometimes things end up we end up writing some things before they actually exist in the other file. But now as we're connecting all the dots, everything will make sense. Okay, so this is the function that we want to work with now, function with auth, and here we have role, takes in role, and we'll implement filter extract is equal to string from a header is equal to rejection headers cloned dot map move headers header map header value So essentially, it's just a long way of saying you're cloning the headers that you get in the along with the role. You clone the headers, and you basically you call the authorize function. That's what essentially you're doing. So in the authorize functions, you will be passing the headers and the role. Okay, and the authorize function is the main place where we write all the logic. So what's happening here is, when somebody hits the user out, we want to, because they're also sending in the token, right? In the login route, when they hit the login route, because of the login handler, they will be able to create the token, right? So the create JWT function gets called from the auth package, auth module. So create JWT function, something that we created right now, which basically creates the token for you. So after you have the token, that's when you call the user route, right, which starts with /user. Call that route when you have a token. So here you're passing the role which is of user, because you're expected to be a user if you're hitting the user out. So you check if that user is legit or not, in the sense he has the right token or not. If he has the right token, only then you will enter this function called user handler. You have the user handler function already. It's supposed to send hello user and then the UID. But to be able to reach here, you need to first cross this function called with auth. Now, with auth, as you've seen, takes in the role, which is the user, and it's going to essentially call the authorize function. So in the authorize function, you're going to pass the role and the headers. Okay. So let's actually create that function here. It's an async function. So async function authorize role comma headers. Role comma header map. So you might notice that we have to write a lot of boilerplate code. Like here we have to define that role is of type role and headers of type header map, header value. Here also in the with auth function, you're doing the same. Headers is of type header map, header value, right? All of that, you're defining all of that. But that's only because Rust is highly, has a lot of strict typing, and it ensures that you don't end up creating a lot of errors. So here you'll say match JWT underscore from underscore header, plus headers here. Now this function JWT from header, we will have to create this function as well. So just write here function JWT from header, right? So when you pass the token, the JWT token, in the request, it goes in the header, right? So you say -h, and then you say authorization, then you say bearer, and then the token, right? So because it's in the header, you need to be able to get it out. You need to be able to get out the token, because that's how you will compare, right? Match basically means comparing, matching tokens. Only if the tokens match can we get the user to log in. Now the way to match is we need to decode the token as well, right? Because we've encoded the token. First we encoded using the encoding key. We use the encode function, and now we'll also use in the authorize function, we'll have to use the decode. The decode function. So you'll say in the decoded, this is where you'll store it. So decode claims ampersand JWT, comma, ampersand decoding key from underscore secret JWT underscore secret, comma, and validation. So you got to give it the algorithm with the help of which the encoding was done, and you're going to decode with the same. It's decoded HS512 So this bracket I've created here is wrong. Should be the wrong bracket. Dot map, the error, underscore here, reject, custom. Again, this error we will create JWT token error. Okay, that means there's some issue with the token, and then we'll match the role. If role equal to role admin. So when you have these 4 dots, right, you're saying that role admin, which is role meaning role with capital R enum, and admin, this role is the same as the role that we just got, that was passed from the body to this function, and role from underscore string decoded dot claims dot role is not equal to role admin. Okay. Return error, reject, custom error, no permission error. Yeah, so if it's not an admin, if the person is not admin and he's trying to access the admin route, then we will say that you don't have permission to do this, and that will basically be defined in the no permission error. Okay, and we'll say okay, decoded dot claims dot sub. Here we'll handle the error. We'll just return the error saying reject custom error. So this is your authorize function. Okay. Now coming back to this function, which is the JWT from header function, which helps us get the token from the header. So here again we'll be working with those two things, two fields, or two components of the token of the request body. One is the authorization. So whenever we pass a token, right, we say authorization, and then we say bearer, and then actually the token, right? So we need both of those things. So we'll just check for both those things, and then after that what comes is the token, and that's what we will return from this function. So we'll say headers, which is of type header map, header value, return a result, which is string. Okay, that header is equal to match headers dot get authorization, if the value is matching, then we'll return the value. Otherwise we'll just return an error saying error is no auth header found. So no auth header error, right? That will basically show that there was no auth header. If there was an auth header, it'll just return that, but there was none, we'll just say no auth header error. And this error we will define in the error module. Okay, and you will get that from error. So I'll have to import those crates. So I'll have to say use crate error result web result. Okay. Okay, so now I have the error crate and result and web result. Result and web result are these that we've defined here. Anyhow, so coming back to JWT from header, so let's create the auth header, which is matching standard string from UTF-8 header dot as underscore bytes, the value otherwise again we'll return the same error, which is no auth header error. And if there's no auth header that starts with bearer, then we will return, then we will return error invalid auth error. Okay, underscore header dot trim start. So you're trimming the part which is the bearer part, and after that is the token, right? So whenever you pass a token to make a request, you say like I said, authorization, and then the bearer, and then the actual token. So you want to remove or trim the part that start matches with bearer. All right. So that's it. That completes the auth.rs file. What we'll do is we'll quickly go through everything just to make sure everything is correct in the file, and then we'll wrap it up. So you have bearer, you have JWT secret, you have the role, the implementation for the role, there's one more thing that's pending, which is where we'll use this FMT package, which will be in the implement FMT display for role. The right way to display the role, to format it, let's format it properly, which is self, comma F, ampersand mute, FMT formatter. Now this is completely optional, you don't have to do it, you don't have to do this formatting, I'm just doing it. Okay, so the formatting part is complete. We have claims, we have with auth, we have create JWT function. We have authorize, we have JWT from header, right? So quite a bit. Now the only thing that's left is the error.rs file. To do that, I will quickly create an enum for the types of errors that we'll have, and we've already used those errors in the other two files, which is the main file and the auth file. So we shouldn't be a big challenge for us now. So what we'll say is, we'll say enum and errors. So what kind of errors that I've used the wrong credential error, the wrong credentials error. I've used the JWT token error. Okay, I've used the JWT token creation error, this one. I've used the no. So that's the benefit with using a good IDE, is that you get these suggestions based on the errors that you already used. The other is invalid auth header error and the no permission error. Okay, and we'll just also write here error, wrong credentials, JWT token not valid, then you have JWT token creation error and no auth error, no auth header error, and then have invalid auth header. And no permission. Okay. So what does the error response look like? So what I'll say is struct an error response looks like this. You have message, which is a string, you have status, which is a string, and then in the beginning what you'll do is you'll say use survey serialize use standard convert infallible, because I'll be using this and this as well, so I'm just making them right now so that I don't have to come back here. Use warp, because obviously we'll use warp here as well. HTTP and status code, comma rejection, comma reply. Awesome. Okay, now that we have everything, the basics built, we'll just implement warp reject for error, and now most importantly the handle rejection function. So this function handle rejection, which comes from the error module, that's the function that we're going to create now. So we'll say pub async function handle rejection Now, after writing all of this code, obviously we will have to, sorry, I'll just drink some water. Obviously we will have to turn on the Rust analyzer, because I'm sure we have made a lot of mistakes, but that's completely all right. This is all about working in broad strokes in the beginning and then figuring out how to fix the code. Okay. Because you don't want to break your thought process too much. So just write what's coming to your mind here, and then we'll fix everything. We'll get into details and fix everything, right? Now this is a very different way of working, but it works really well. Code message is equal to if error dot is not found. You will say status code not found. Not found dot to underscore string. Okay, here we'll say else if let sum error dot find error, and then let's match the error, right? So if there's no error, that error does not exist, so you'll say not found. Otherwise you'll just, if there is an error, you'll just match it with these ones. So the first one is the wrong credentials error, then you'll have the no permission error, then you'll have the JWT token error, and then you'll have the JWT. So this match function enables you to match the exact error, then take the right action based on the error. Now again, this entire file, which is error handling, is completely optional, in the sense you don't have to do it if you're not building like production grade stuff. But if you are building production grade stuff, then it can be really helpful, right? You don't want to build a project that doesn't have any error handling. So here, if I have wrong credentials error, what I want to do is I want to say status code forbidden. Comma e dot to underscore string, and here I'm going to say status code unauthorized e dot to underscore string, status code, okay, unauthorized to underscore string, and for this we'll say status code internal server error internal server. Now all of this that we are doing right now is very, very basic, simple code. There's nothing, there's no business logic here, nothing that's happening that's critical. It's just error handling, matching the error right with the right with the error type, and then giving the right status for it. So at the end you'll say comma and status code add underscore request comma e dot to underscore string This is e.toString, and then after that it's else if error.find warp reject method not allowed. That is underscore sum. Method underscore not underscore allowed, and the actual text that will be returned, which is method not allowed, and it will be to underscore string. So in case you don't want to build this entire file, you can just copy and paste it as well. Not a problem. Like copy and paste it directly from my GitHub. This is all just error handling, and once you do this in this file or in this project, you can do it in any other file also. You can just copy and paste this. So what's essentially happening here is we're matching the error with the type of error, sending the particular status code like 401, 500, blah, blah, blah. This is 500, for example. This is 401, for example, right? And with the message, the error message, right? And here, if there's nothing here, then it's just bad request, right? No type of error is matching, so it's bad request. And then we're also handling for method not allowed. So if method not allowed basically means if it's it was meant for post, but you were trying get, right? So that's method not allowed. So that also we're handling out here. And here we'll say e print. This is just very basic error handling. I'm sure you already know all of this. And then comma error here, status code, internal server error, comma internal server error dot to underscore string. Then we have let JSON equal to warp reply JSON error response status code dot underscore string, comma message. And finally, okay, warp reply with status JSON comma code. Okay, so each error has some JSON message, which is the JSON, and the code, which is the status, right? The code is like 401, 500, like that, and the message is basically a JSON, right? JSON has both of those things and code. All right, so this is our error handling file, and now we'll go ahead and I'm looking for Rust Analyzer actually. just say Rust. Does it come up? Yeah, so I'll just enable it, and I get lots of errors, which is nice because we will now fix them one by one. All right, so in the main.rs file, if you go to the login handler function, login request needs to be one word, right, because that's how we created the struct, and sum needs to be capital S. So that fixes two small errors, hopefully. And now we'll just add some dependencies because those are the packages that we're using. So once we add some dependencies, hopefully some of the issues should go away. So here we have the version addition, all of that. And dependencies, I'll just add the ones that I'm using. So you can just copy and paste from my cargo.toml file. In case you want to write it on your own, you can do that as well. So we're just using JSON Web Token Tokyo, warp, sorry JSON, this error, chrono, debug, for profile dev, profile test, profile release. So I've added those now, and as you see now for main.rs, lot of the almost all of the issues have gone away, so it doesn't show any issues anymore. All the issues that are pending are in error.rs, but now again I can see in main.rs there's 5 issues again. All right, so remove that, and then let's find the pending issues. Now in the auth.rs file, there is in the pub enum role there is 1 comma missing. Put that there, and here instead of fun, which is fn, I've written fun, which is fun. So when you save that, you just left with 3 errors here and then just 4 errors here, right? So certainly the errors have become much less. With the error.rs file, there are many things that are wrong. So here should not have the comma, should have semicolon here, semicolon here, and on top of that you need derive error bug out here and derive serialize bug out here. So that should hopefully take care of a few issues, right? So now take a look. 4 issues are left in the error.rs file, but auth and main, these 2 files are working completely, right? So because there's dependency between these files. When I fix issues here, both these files are now like they're perfectly fine. They don't have any issues at all. We just have to find 4 more issues now. One really small issue that I found here is that there's double colon missing, and now we're left with one small issue. And the final issue is that toString, the S should have been small in the error.rs file. Now we see all the issues have gone away. So the natural step now is to do cargo run, and let's test out just one API, and then we're sure everything else will work because there are no issues and we've built it very carefully. Let's try at least one API. Okay, so I will open up terminal and let's check out if everything works as expected. Yes, you got the token, everything's working perfectly fine. Now let's say if this code is not correct, maybe because I've not tested all the other APIs, maybe if this is not correct, you don't have to worry because I'm going to be uploading the correct code, which I showed you in the demo, right? Even though this code is correct, but like just for your peace of mind, I'm going to upload the code which is the one I showed you in demo, right? So it's already uploaded in GitHub. Feel free to take a look. Now you know how that code works. You have a complete idea about that. So we learned a lot in this video, quite a lot, right? We understood how to use Warp, how to create APIs, how to handle errors, how to use JWT in Rust for authorization, how to encode, decode, how we used the claims, the expiration, and how we created the token, and then the role, how we had roles for admin and user. So a lot of stuff in this video that we've learned. I hope you learned a lot as well. Thank you so much for watching, and do share this with your friends. Do share this playlist with your friends. It's all free and it's good information, right? Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.